Hi everyone and welcome to this SAP Identity Management 8.0 video. In this video, you'll see a very basic example of what SAP Identity Management can perform, and this is how to read user data from two different data sources and how to synchronize the information using SAP Identity Management 8.0. What does SAP Identity Management offer? SAP Identity Management offers a centralized management of identities and provisioning of user data and related permissions in the entire heterogeneous system landscape. This includes both SAP and non-SAP systems. It provides a single source of user information with automated synchronization and lifecycle management of employee records. SAP Identity Management offers a flexible and highly configurable comprehensive workflows, including a visual designer tool. It enables self-service management for user-related data and fully automated provisioning. The purpose of this video is to show you how SAP Identity Management can be used to synchronize and manage the user data provided by two different sources. They can be exported, for example, from your human capital management system or other SAP or non-SAP systems. And these are the two data sources with the user information. The email.txt file, which contains pairs of employee IDs, and employee emails concatenated with the equal sign. You can download this file from the section below this video. The second source is the database table, which contains information about the same employees, including first name, last name, department, and others. This sample data was provided to you with the installation of your database. It is called HR_sample. So how to do this in SAP Identity Management 8.0? First, you need to create a package and check it out before you can work on its configuration. After that, you will create the repository types for both sources, and then you will create the specific repositories to be used for this example scenario. Next, you will create a job in which to organize the passes responsible for reading the data from the sources and transferring this data to the identity store. After running this job, you will check for these users in the identity store. But before you start, please make sure that you have installed SAP Identity Management 8.0, that you have configured the dispatcher and it is running, that you have done the initial setup and an identity store is created. Also make sure that you have the input sources with the user data. You would also need at least developer rights in SAP Identity Management Developer Studio. Also make sure that you have access to the Identity Management User Interface and the Identity Management Administration User Interface. And you need access to the SAP Identity Management Database schema, which is needed only because of the HR_sample database table, which we use in this example. So let's get started. To make a configuration, you need a package in which to create this configuration. For this tutorial, you'll create a new package, but you can also reuse an existing one. In the Developer Studio, click on the folder Packages. From the context menu, choose New Package. You will be prompted to enter the name of the new package. As you can see, there is a prefix to this package which cannot be changed. This prefix is the base qualified name which we have defined by installing the database. After you have created the new package, you will see that this package is already checked out. This means that you can work on its configuration. When you create a new package, you will see that there is already a given structure which you can use. The second step in our process is to create repository types for each of the data sources. To create a repository type, click on Repository Types, and from the context menu, choose New Repository Type. The first data source is the email.txt data file, which means that the repository type template that you should use is file. Now name the repository type. We'll call this one file rep type and click OK. To create a second repository type for the database source, repeat the steps. Click on Repository Types, from the context menu, choose New Repository Type. This time you will need a database repository type template. Call this one dbrep type and choose OK. Now you're ready to create the repositories. How to do this? Open your browser and open SAP Identity Management Administration User Interface. Go to the tab System Configuration. On the left-hand side, choose Repositories. Here you can see if there are already repositories created. In this case, there are no repositories created yet. To create a new repository, click on Create New Repository. In this window, it is important to give to the repository a proper name and also to select the repository type. Let's call this repository Emails Repository. You can also give a description to the repository. Now search for the repository type that you have just created for the emails.txt file. This is the file rep type and click OK. As this is the first repository, you see that it immediately appears in the lower part of the screen. Now you have to define the path to the file which contains your emails and then save the repository. So the first repository is already created. Let's now create the second one. Click again on Create New Repository. Let's call this one DB repository. You can also give a description to the repository. Select the repository type that you have just created for the database and click OK. Now, if you want to configure this repository, you have to select it first and it appears in the lower part of the screen. What you need to do here is to set up the connection to your database. You will need to define the server, port, database, user, and password. When you're ready with this configuration, go to the next step, which is to configure the Jdbc driver. Copy here the link to the Jdbc driver that you have for your database and click Save. So until now, you have created a package, you have created the two repository types for each of the data sources, and you have created both repositories. The next step is to create a job. Go to SAP Identity Management Developer Studio. Go to the Jobs folder of your package and from the context menu, choose New Job. If you want, you can rename this job. As you can see, it opens in two new views. In the properties of this job, you see that it is already enabled and the dispatcher is selected. In the lower left corner of your screen, you can see all the passes, scripts, constants, and variables that this job contains of. As this is a new job, there is nothing created yet. The first pass that you will create is a from ASCII pass. It will read the data from the email.txt file and will save it into a temporary table. In the tab Passes, click on an empty field and from the context menu choose New from ASCII file. You can rename the pass by selecting Rename from the context menu. A double click on the pass and it opens in the other view. In the General tab, select the repository that you have created for the email.txt file. This is the repository emails repository. This will allow us to use the constants of the repository. Click OK and go to the Source tab. From the context menu of the field file name, search for the constant which contains the path to the email.txt file. This is the constant rep.filename which we have defined in the SAP Identity Management Administration user interface. The field separator is the equal sign, which is between the employee ID and the email of a person. Select Header Line and go to the Destination tab. Here SAP Identity Management Database is selected by default and we'll leave it as it is. Now define the name of the temporary table in which you will store the emails before you upload them to the identity store. Let's call this one TMP underscore email underscore table. Click on Insert Template, Data Source Template. SAP Identity Management reads the header line from the source file and suggests the respective values for the temporary destination table. You can change the values in column target if you want. Save the pass. The next step is to create a From Database pass. This pass will read information from the database table and will copy it to a temporary table. Click on an empty field in the tab Passes. From the context menu, select New From Database. Rename the pass to Read HR Data from DB. In the tab General, select the repository that you have created for the database. This is the DB repository, and click OK. Go to the Source tab. From the context menu of the field Database, choose Constants and select the constant which holds the DB connection. In the SQL Query field, type Select All from HR_sample. In the Destination tab, SAP Identity Management Database is selected by default. The name of the temporary table this time will be TMP_person_table. Click on Insert Template, Data Source Template. If you prefer to upload to the identity store less information than what is given in the table HR_sample of your database, then you can fill up this mapping table manually. Now save the pass. The last pass that you need to create will read the data from the temporary tables and will upload it to the identity store. This is the To Identity Store pass. Let's call it Write to Identity Store. This time you don't need to select a repository. In the Source tab, select Database, and from the context menu, choose the parameter ddm.identityCenter. In the field SQL Query, type the following. This SQL statement will combine the data from both temporary tables TMP_email_table and TMP_person_table and will upload the data to the identity store. Go to the Destination tab. The entry type should be MX person. Fill in the mapping table by placing the names of the identity store attributes in column attribute, and in column value, give the values that these attributes have to adopt by copying the names of the attributes from the temporary table and placing them between percentage signs. Save the path. Now you're ready with the configuration. Before you run this job and upload the user information to the identity store, let's check if there are already people in the identity store. Open SAP Identity Management user interface in your browser and go to the tab Manage. Select Person in the Show field and click Go. As you can see, there is only one person in the identity store, and this is the administrator. Let's now run the job and upload the new users. Go back to the Developer Studio and select Run the job. This will execute the 3 passes and will upload the user information from both data sources in the identity store. To see the progress and check if everything went well, check the job log. Looks like the job was successfully executed. Let's now search again for employees in the identity store. And here they are. The users were successfully uploaded to the identity store. As you can see, there are no detailed tasks defined for entry type person yet. This is the reason why you don't have any tasks available for this entry. To enable these tasks, you have to first import the default forms package provided with your SAP Identity Management installation. Go back to the Developer Studio, click on Packages, and from the context menu choose Import. Select the default forms package from the configuration packages and open it. Click OK, and a few seconds later you will see that it was imported successfully. Now let's check again if we can edit the user from the Identity Management user interface. Refresh the browser and select one of the users. In the lower part of the screen, you can already see that there are more details about this person, including first name, last name, email, and department. Click on Choose Task, Identity, and select the task which you want to perform. We hope that you have enjoyed this video. You can find related information to this topic in the comment section below. You can also post your questions and we will try to respond to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.